You're listening to Brave Girls with Tracy M., where we choose to empower you to be a better leader, mentor, and coach in the world. We'll share stories of people who have achieved great heights by overcoming adversity and rising to the challenge, all while pursuing their passions. These courageous people will inspire you to have faith in yourself and take bold action. Right here with the host of Brave Girls, Tracy M.
Episode 62, Be an Advocate with Marla Zide. An accomplished attorney, Marla Zide joins the show today. With the practice focused on family law, she grew up the daughter of a judge in New England where she seemed destined to work in the field of law. Her mother, a full tenured professor, served as a role model for her and demonstrated what was possible for her as a leader in the world. In this conversation, Marla shares her brave girl story and the path she took to where she is today. We talk about the work she's done in the area of representing victims of domestic violence and how she advocates for the rights of her clients. Active in her state bar association, she continues to be a leader and mentor to other young lawyers on their career paths. Widowed at 35, Marla shares what she learned as she went through the grief process and how her perspective on life really shifted. Her words of wisdom are inspiring and motivational. Remarried and now a stepmom, she tells the story of her life today and how she met her partner. I truly enjoyed my conversation with Marla and hearing her perspective on so many topics, from foster adoptions, step-parent adoption, and same-sex parent adoption, and why she loves to be an advocate in the world. So with that, I introduce you to Marla Zide. So welcome to Brave Girls with Tracy M. Today I have Marla Zide with me, and she's a very accomplished attorney who is concentrating her practice on family law in the Central Maryland region. So welcome to the show, Marla.
Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, I'm so excited to hear your story. I know that you're very busy with your practice in family law, and you're basically out there doing your thing. But your backstory is that you grew up in New England. So talk a little bit about growing up in New England and how you, at a very young age, would tag along with your dad to work.
Right. So that is actually factual. My dad was a judge in Massachusetts, Worcester County, in a few different places, but his home base was Fitchburg, Mass. And before he became a judge, he was a lawyer. In small town New England, I was able to go to work with him on Saturdays and hang out. I would walk down to the YMCA and go swimming and get pizza. And I remember just absolutely being enthralled with all of the books around him as he was working so hard in those yellow pads. And as I grew up, I just knew that I wanted to be a lawyer. Then my path took me down a little bit of a different road as I got older. And I didn't think that I was going to do that. But my junior year of college, I actually was back in Massachusetts visiting my dad, sitting in the courtroom. And it was one of those moments where you could feel everything from toe to head and said, this is really where I want to be and this is what I want to do. So I changed my path a little bit my junior year of college and ended up working in between undergrad and law school so I could concentrate to get into law school, and then went to law school, and it's been an interesting road since then.
Yeah. And I think I read in your bio that your litigation career really started at another Y, where you were representing parties in protective order hearings. So what was that all about?
Well, to give a little background, I went into law school thinking that I wanted to be a juvenile public defender, working with juveniles, because where my path went, I was a psychology major in undergrad. I took a lot of sociology classes and was a women's studies minor. And so I went in thinking I wanted to do policy work and work with middle-aged children,
Right.
Really trying to inspire them and change their lives and make a difference. And it was my second year of law school when I took family law. It was like something clicked. And I realized that my psychology background, my women's studies background, et cetera, really, it just all made sense that family law was what I wanted to do. And So there was an opportunity at University of Baltimore to do the family law clinic. And when you do the family law clinics, you get experience working with different legal service providers throughout the state of Maryland. And what that work is primarily is working with survivors of domestic violence, helping them obtain protective orders. That's your first really direct client interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just a natural transition when I went and started litigation to go. I had the wonderful opportunity to work at the YWCA of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County and started representing survivors in domestic violence cases, protective order cases primarily. And at that time, the grant also extended out to divorce work. So that's where I started my career. That was the path. It was both educational, both social for me, really ingrained in what I wanted to do. And I always say that my heart will always be in legal services, and advocacy work for survivors of domestic violence is also something that's really ingrained in me and something that's really important to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times it's like they don't have a voice, so you become their voice, right? And you've got the skills and the background to give voice to them and keep them safe.
It will keep them safe, give them voice, but also watching that transition in a protective order, even in that short term. So it's so quick. Somebody gets a protective order and that final protective order hearing is 7 days later. To really watch the transition in that time period from the time that someone comes into your office seeking assistance to the end of that, where the protective order is granted and or consented to, and they have some sort of resolution. To watch that peace of mind is really a wonderful experience. And obviously you cannot keep all people safe and you can't solve all of the problems, but just knowing that you had the hand with one person and with one family at one point is really empowering for me.
Right.
Truly. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing family law, because that is, even to watch that transition is quite incredible. I always say, there's a marriage is a separate entity, and when that is over, it's a loss. And it's very empowering to watch both men and women transcend through that. I think people think that divorce is easy because so many people do that in society, but it's just not. It's a very emotionally difficult experience. So it's empowering for me.
Yeah, and for children, if the children are involved as well, it doesn't matter what age.
It does not.
Yeah,
it does not matter what age.
Yeah, it's a significant emotional event for everyone. So, in the pre-show banter, you told me a little bit about your backstory, about what happened to you when you were 35. Would you want to talk about that and how that kind of has played into your perspective?
Sure. So when I met my husband when I was 30 years old. So I was older. We got married. I was just turned 33. And at 35, he died of a heart attack. It was very sudden. Obviously, we had no idea that he had heart disease. And that has really affected me tremendously. I would say most positively. Most of it, he passed away in 2010. So it has been 8.5 years now. And grief is an interesting process. And what I think that I've been able to contribute to my clients now, even though I have not been through a divorce, as I was saying, a marriage is a separate entity. There's a spouse one, spouse two, and then there is the marriage. And if you lose that marriage, whether it's through divorce or whether you lose your spouse, it is a grief process. So I feel like I can identify a lot more with my clients now through that experience. And it's definitely not the same.
Right.
Obviously, I've spoken with other widows who, some people will comment that I've been through a divorce, so I get it. It's different, but it's the same grief process is what I always say, that you're grieving the loss of your marriage. So that's something that has helped me. I think that it's also helped me appreciate life a lot more, and appreciate experiences and values and appreciate other people. And also not focus on what you could have had, or what if this happened, or what if that happened. I always promised myself after he passed away, I would number one be the person that he told everybody I was, because he really, really liked me a lot and really, really was proud of me and said amazing things about me, things that I didn't even believe in myself. So that his voice is always something that I hear. I promised myself that. And then I also promised myself I would not say, well, if that hadn't have happened, or how would it have been different? And it doesn't matter, because you just have to live your life every day, and you have to focus on what's happening in front of you and focus on the people around you, and make sure you're being the best person that you can be every day. And that it's helped me focus on that.
Right. And then you've since remarried, and you have 2 stepchildren. And so talk about that.
I have remarried, and my stepchildren are from him. So his children, these were his children. So the girls were just turned 4 and 5 when he and I got together, and they were just turned 10 and 8 when he passed away. And I was fortunate to have a really good relationship with their mom, who is an incredible person, another incredible woman. And so the girls are now 18, a freshman in college, and 17, a junior in high school. And they love to tell their story, because what they get to say when they tell their story is that they explain that they lost their father and they still have a really good relationship with their stepmom. And then they say, plot twist, my stepmom married a woman. So I am married to a woman. Her name is Rachel. We have been married for 2.5 years. And it's great. I've known Rachel since I was 21 years old. We have been good friends through mutual friends of ours. And when Jeff passed away, we realized that we lived close, and she is a police officer, so a natural helper. And she's actually a corporal now. She was a police officer at the time, and she's a natural helper, and she was coming in and helping me. And about a year after he passed away, I realized that, wow, what a great person she is, and coming in, and she's really been a really, really great friend, and that relationship just grew. And here we are today, married. So
Oh, that's great. That's all really good. That's really good. And so you've also held quite a few leadership positions. And so some of the things that I talk about on the show with my guest is sort of their perspective on being a female leader, being a brave girl, and kind of what women bring to leadership. So talk a little bit about, I know you were the past chair of the young lawyers section of the Maryland State Bar, and that's a big deal. And so you've been very active in the Bar Association. So talk about that.
I have been very active in the Bar Association, and it was funny. I was preparing for this talk last night, and I Googled myself, and I was looking.
That's a good thing to do.
It is. Well, you never know what you're going to be asked, so you better know what's out there.
Right.
So it was a picture of me all the way back from 2005, working in doing a shadow day in Northwestern High School. And of course I texted the picture to some of my friends, and none of us even could remember that. So it is wonderful for me that I can't even remember some of the wonderful volunteer leadership experiences that I've had. But I've always, since becoming a lawyer, I have been engaged in the Maryland State Bar Association. And I really feel like that is what has helped my career to be what it is today, is that involvement and that networking and that experience. There are some really wonderful leaders that were in that organization that really wanted to pull young lawyers up and make sure that young lawyers were involved and young lawyers had a voice. And truly my closest friends are from that organization, from the Young Lawyers Section Council of the Maryland State Bar Association. We're all very aged out of the Young Lawyers Section at this point of our careers, but still all very close, still all remain in leadership roles in the Maryland State Bar Association. And many of us are women. Many of us have continued to launch our careers in different ways, always finding a reconnection in the field. But now there are people in government becoming judges, people in other types of leadership roles, elected officials, etc. So I think I have always been a loud voice. I had a mom that really was very empowering. She herself is quite amazing. She became a full professor, tenured professor in the 70s, raising 3 young children. So she has her doctorate. It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. So my sisters and I were born in 73, 75, and 77. And she continued to teach and work, and she somehow managed to make sure that we were all born in end of April, May, and July, and she worked that in. And there was no maternity leave. There was no such thing back then. And she did that, and I watched her career. She moved herself up into higher education and administration and higher education. And that, being a younger person, I didn't love that my mom was not home and that I didn't have a mom that was, in the classroom every 5 minutes and things like that. But I remember as a 16-year-old woman, young woman, looking at that and feeling very empowered by it. So I never had an issue being a leader. I really felt like I had this role model that taught me that it did not matter that I was a girl, that I can do anything that boys can do. And that is very empowering. So that was easy for me to transition as a professional, to make sure that I remained in leadership, and found that to be an important thing.
Yes. So I have a similar story. My mom, she wasn't a full professor, but she went and got her PhD from Columbia, and went into higher education administration, and was also very much the role model for my sister and I, that you could do whatever you wanted to do and you just had to set your mind to it. And so, yeah, I think also sometimes seeing that role modeled for us is helpful, especially as we kind of move forward, that's just your responsibility, that as you get more education, it doesn't matter what your gender is. It's more about using your gifts and your services to help other people.
And that is exactly what it is. She always volunteered as well. She was on the United Way. My parents were both. My parents were very involved in community, and that was a natural thing for me. And exactly what you said is, it's your responsibility. That is part of giving back. Once you have achieved that, you always should go back, and it's your responsibility to make sure that you're contributing in a productive way.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. So today, you're out on your own, and you've been recognized, as you should, as one of Maryland's top 100 super lawyers and top 50 women super lawyers. So I think that's great that you're getting the recognition for your practice and for the clients that you're serving. So that's great.
It is. And it's exciting. And it's nice to have those honors. I appreciate that. And I think that helps with my business, that people see those. But what I always say is much more rewarding are the reviews and comments of my clients, the people who I serve, and the people who feel as though they are getting the best possible service for what we offer from our office. Absolutely. That is the best recognition that you can get, is a happy client.
Right. Now, as our parents are aging and more of the caregiving's coming back to, people in the 40s and 50s to have to take care of their parents or transition their parents to nursing homes, do you have clients in that space as well that you're helping give family support as they're kind of sorting through all of that?
We do some trust and estates work. That's not where our concentration is. That is definitely a booming area of law, that I have several friends that are doing that. I do have clients and trends, it's a new piece, quite frankly, to divorce and family law. I think that that is a new factor, because you do have, it's not necessarily a child in the household, it's an elderly parent that might be in the household, and that is a factor that affects families. So in that piece of it, it definitely works. But since my firm is more with the joining of families, that I have is the adoption work that I do, but the separating of families, I don't do as much of the trust and estates and planning work.
So talk about adoption, because that's like a whole nother thing. And it's a whole nother emotional, significant emotional event that you can go through. So talk a little bit about that and what you work with your clients on, or what you say.
The majority of work that I've been doing in adoptions are with same-sex couples, so second parent adoptions, and then step-parent adoptions. And then I also represent foster parents who are adopting. The foster work is probably one of my favorite areas. All adoption work is my favorite, bar none, my favorite. But the foster parents adopting that through that system is my favorite, because that is an incredible transition to watch, and incredible stories to share. I do that work in Anne Arundel County, and we are fortunate enough that our judges really support the mediation process. So what happens is, when a child is in the foster care system, they're designated as a child in need of assistance. And that case is in the court system through the juvenile court system. And the plan is always reunification, to reunify the child that's in the system back with their biological parents. If that is not able to be accomplished for whatever reason, the plan then changes to adoption. And at that stage, the court usually orders mediation. And that is such an interesting experience to facilitate a mediation between a biological parent and a foster parent. And it is an incredible view into our society and the experience, sometimes they're incredibly difficult life experiences that people have to go to recognize that it is in the best interest of your child to allow that child to be adopted by somebody else. Is the greatest, most selfless thing that a parent can do. And so I feel very fortunate that I often get to see that process for that parent, and experience that with the adoptive parent. And then, of course, the ceremonial part, the final court hearing, is always a wonderful, wonderful experience as well.
Well, and I'm thinking back to in your college days when you were taking all these psych courses and social work or sociology courses. It's like it's all coming forward, right? It's like that was part of your story and part of your journey that you had to go through before you pivoted to the legal aspect, because so much of what you're doing involves human psychology.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I think I love family law so much, because you really do hit on all of those different points. Another area of my practice is that I get appointed by the court to represent kids. And I'm representing several teenage girls right now. And that is also another part of my human experience that I wanted back in my teens and early 20s, that I wanted to empower young women and wanted to make sure that they felt whole and empowered to be their authentic selves. And so it really, I feel incredibly fortunate that my job has really been able to use all of the emotional pieces that I wanted it to use, all the education that I've had, all of the different experiences that I had. And I feel very fortunate. Most days I don't feel like my job is a job. My job is to run a law office right now.
Right. But I mean, it's no coincidence that you were a women's studies minor. Like that was something that was interesting you way back when you were, 18, 19, 20, and you're bringing it forward by working with these young girls and really helping shape who they're going to become.
And that feels great. And I hope that I do. I think that is always the hope, that you at some point in your life, know that you've touched other people's lives, and that I feel really fortunate that is part of my job. And that is something that's important to me always in my daily experience.
Yeah. So my finale question is always, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done, and how does it inspire you today? So give that some thought.
Okay. So, well, the bravest thing that I ever did was about a year after Jeff passed away. It became obvious to me that where I had been for the prior 7.5 years as an attorney was not going to be the place where I was going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was faced with not having a job and faced with, what do? I have the same exact bills that I had before my husband passed away. I had no one to help me pay my bills. What am I going to do? And the bravest decision that I made was to open my own practice. And the lawyers in the firm now make fun of me because I had this tiny little red net book. It was a net book, not a notepad, they didn't have, this was 2011. They didn't have iPads really back then. It was this tiny little net book, and literally was almost squatting in a space on cardboard boxes in an office, and found somebody to share some space with. And that was in September of 2011. And now we are in March, unbelievably, of 2019. There are 4 attorneys in the firm. We have 3 full-time support staff and 1 part-time support staff. And we're continuing to grow and really working as a team. So that was the bravest thing I did in September of 2011. And honestly, it's the thing that I'm the most proud of.
Good for you. Good for you. Because that had to take a lot of courage to just say, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have faith that it's going to work out, and I've got what it takes, and I have something to offer, and I'm going to hustle to get clients. So good for you.
Thank you. And I don't know if I said all those things to myself back then, but those would have been good things to say.
Exactly. Hindsight's always perfect, right? Yeah.
Actually, one of my husband's best friends is an attorney, and I called him hysterically crying. And he essentially said to me, "Put on your big girl pants, Marla, and suck it up." And it kind of snapped me into reality, and that's what I did. And it was brave, and it's all worked out. So I'm proud of that.
Right. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I just wish you the best of luck. So if people want to find your law firm and find you, what's the best way for them to find you?
The best way to find us is on the internet. We have a website, and it's www.marlazidelelaw.com. And that is the best way to find us. We actually just revamped our website, so we have some videos on there that you can learn more about the firm itself and what we do and all of the different lawyers in the firm. And I primarily do family law, but the firm also does criminal law and bankruptcy. And we do have an attorney, as I said, that's of counsel that does do some estate work.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we put that in the show notes. So I just want to thank you for taking some time to share your story and what you're doing out there in the world as a brave girl. And I'm so glad that we got connected. And keep doing Marla, man. Like, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, thank you. And Tracy, thank you for doing this and offering this platform for women to empower other women. It's really important. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. as much as I did creating it. Each show is produced with you, the listener, in mind, as you look for inspiration and motivation from other brave souls as you pursue your desires. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave me a review on iTunes. I read every one. And check out my website, tracym.com, for more free resources. You can also join my list and sign up for my newsletter right from the homepage. Until next time, stay strong, believe in your dreams, and go do something brave.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. and hope that you enjoyed the show. For more information about today's episode, as well as additional free resources to help you achieve greatness in your life, visit tracym.com and sign up for our mailing list. Until next time, dream big, believe in yourself, and let your brilliance shine as only you can do.